Hello, everyone. Welcome to join us in making cute simulation cats. Today, we will make 6 adorable simulation cats together. Considering the difficulty level of the projects, we recommend starting with Cat 2, then Cat 5 for beginners. These 2 videos are especially suitable for beginners. We will explain the entire making process in detail. Before we start, let's take out our handle. 1 medium needle. 1 fine needle. What we are teaching everyone to make our small dolls. So we are providing these 2 types of needles. The medium needle is slightly longer than the fine needle. The tip of the medium needle is also slightly thicker than the fine needle. Both types of needle tips will have many small barbs. During the felting process, the barbs move the wool, causing the wool to interlock. To achieve the felting effect, the medium needle felts faster and is used for shaping in the early and mid stages. The felting speed with fine needles is relatively slow, used for later light felting, to make the surface of the doll smooth and even. When making larger or even larger works, the following will be used: purse needle, 3-pronged needle, 7-pronged needle. These types of needles have a particularly fast felting speed, so they are used for making large works. The medium and fine needles provided for everyone make it easier to create small dolls. First time using a felting needle, we need to take a needle out of the needle holder. New needles are coated with anti-rust oil to prevent the felting needle from rusting. Before we use it, you can wipe off the rust foil on the surface with a paper towel. The correct way to clean the needle is to gently wipe along the direction of the needle. After cleaning, it can be used together with the handle. When cleaning the needle, remember not to wipe back and forth. This can easily lead to the needle accidentally piercing your finger, causing injury. If the needle is not used for a long time, to avoid rusting, you can apply rust-proof foil or cooking oil to the surface. After oiling, store it in a needle case. Using the needle. When felting wool, the needle needs to be kept vertical to the wool being felted. Insert the wool in the direction of the needle tip. When pulling the needle out, it needs to be pulled out in the opposite direction of where it was inserted. Then repeat. Continuously repeat. This will allow the wool to felt. When felting wool, make sure to apply force in the direction of the needle. Do not press the needle. Pressing the needle can easily lead to breakage. Also, do not lift the needle upwards after inserting it into the wool. This can also cause the needle to break. Then take out our handle. Pull out the wooden plug inside the handle. You can see one end is relatively large. One end is relatively small. Take the end of the needle with the hook and fit it into the groove of the smaller end. Then put our needle back into the handle. It can't be loose like this. Push it in tightly with some force. This way it won't loosen up. Next, we need to prepare the workbench. To better demonstrate for everyone, the video uses a white foam pad. Before starting, you can put on finger cots. The shorter one is worn on our thumb. The longer one is worn on our index finger. Like this. For beginners, it is very necessary to wear finger cots to prevent our needle from injuring our hands while felting. Once you become skilled, you can take off the finger cots to operate. In the instructional video to help everyone see better. The demonstrator did not wear finger cots. For better distinction in the instructional video, we use a wooden handle to represent the fine needle, and a blue handle to represent the medium needle. In reality, you may receive two wooden handles. You can use one wooden handle to install the fine needle and one wooden handle to install the medium needle. For convenience of distinction, you can make marks on the wooden handle. There are two types of handles, wooden and plastic. The functions of both types are the same, it's just the material that is different. Hello everyone. Today we are going to learn how to make a cute number 6 ragdoll cat. First, we find this 1:1 scale blueprint. This is the front view. This is the side view. We need to repeatedly compare the size of the blueprint while making it, to avoid distortion in proportions or running out of wool if it's too big. Hello everyone. Today we are going to learn how to make a cute number 6 ragdoll cat. First, we find this 1:1 scale blueprint. This is the front view. This is the side view. We need to repeatedly compare the size of the blueprint while making it, to avoid distortion in proportions or running out of wool if it's too big. First, let's make the head of the kitten. Take out the wool and pick out the stray fibers inside. We will roughly wrap the wool first. Let's compare it with the blueprint. It's about this size. Then we should separate the wool from here. Don't keep your hands too close together. It won't be pulled apart. I'll keep a little distance. Okay, let's wrap it again. When wrapping, the wool should be pulled tight, not too loose. Compare the sizes, it's slightly too big. We can remove a bit of wool from the side or from the bottom. Now the wool is ready. Next, let's wrap the wool. This end of the wool is neater, it has been cut with scissors. We'll start wrapping from this end, using the end with the fibers to connect will fit better. First, gather the wool towards the center. Then roll it forward and hold it with your thumb. Gather it towards the center and after rolling, be sure to hold it with your fingers. When rolling, you need to pull the wool tight so that it wraps securely. We wrap the wool tightly to facilitate faster felting during the later felting process. Like this. The wrapped wool is relatively dense, and from the side, it also has a rounded and fuller shape. Take a look at the size of the kitten's head. This is just right. If you feel that the wool is not enough, you can add more wool. If you just fold it forward like this and wrap it loosely, the wool wrapped this way is relatively soft and looks quite flat from the side. So during the later felting process, we will need more time to felt the wool properly. Therefore, we must wrap the wool tightly during the wrapping process. Next, we will use the medium needle to felt the wool. Before felting, we need to have a work surface underneath. Everyone must remember to use a gray felting mat underneath while felting. Here, for better demonstration, we are using a white foam mat. Take out the medium needle and make sure to poke deeply. Like this. You can first secure a few stitches at both ends to prevent the wool from coming apart. Then, felt around it in the direction we wrap the wool. At the beginning, you can go a little slower with the needle. When it's close to your fingers, be careful to watch the position of the needle to avoid poking your hand. Then flip the wool and continue felting. We can also hold it this way vertically using both hands to control the wool. Do not let it spread out to both sides. Our video is edited. The actual production time will take a bit longer, so it requires a little patience. We need to shape the wool into a ball like this. Felt this area inward to gradually shape it into a ball. When felting, we can poke from this area upwards. On the other end, poke from the middle up to the top. This video is sped up. The actual production time will be longer, so it requires a bit of patience. You can roll it in your hands a bit, then continue to use the medium needle for felting. At this point, it is still relatively soft and needs to continue using the medium needle to make it firmer. Now our wool has a certain hardness, and it is quite difficult to poke with the medium needle, so we can switch to the fine needle to continue felting. Similarly with deep poking, slowly refine the rougher surface to make it smoother. You must continuously flip the wool, trying to make every area firm. Make sure to poke from the middle towards both ends. You can angle the needle slightly to make it easier to form a ball shape. We have completed the base of the kitten's head. Let's compare it with the blueprint. It can be slightly smaller than what is shown in our blueprint, as we will need to add wool to the cat later. If you think it is too big, you can use scissors to trim it a little. If you feel there isn't enough wool, you can spread the wool out thinly and felt it tightly to the ball. Be careful not to add too much at once, or it may become too large. The finished head has some hardness and a certain degree of elasticity when squeezed. This makes it easier to make adjustments when creating the facial features. Next, let's make the cat's face. First, there will be a raised area for the nose, followed by the mouth parts on both sides. And there is a small bump on the chin, as well as the positions of the left and right cheeks. Let's take a look at the picture of the kitten's face together. Everyone can see that these pieces of wool are added on top of a round ball. Next, let's make the kitten's face. Take a small amount of wool and pull it apart from the middle. You can change the direction. Take a little less again. Fold. Used to make the kitten's mouth part, one on each side. This middle part is where the kitten's nose is located. It's roughly at half the height of the entire head, and in the middle of the mouth with its both sides. It is also at the center of the head. We use fine needle to stab and secure. We will use the same method to make the other side. Be careful near your fingers when you stab. Do it slowly and don't poke your fingers. If you think this part is too small, we can add some wool again. At this point, the wool should be a little less. Don't add too much. If it's a bit too much, take a little off. Otherwise, it will be easy to misjudge the amount, leading to making it too large. Then let's make a kitten's nose. Take a bit of wool in your hand and gently roll it. First secure the bottom, then the left and right sides. Take some wool and rub it in your hands. Add to the chin position. The kitten's nose and mouth parts are done. Take a look at the side. Next, let's make the kitten's cheeks. Take a bit of wool and tear it apart slightly. The cheek will be a bit fuller, so we need a little more wool. Hold the wool in place with your hand, then use fine needle to secure it. Like this, do the same on the other side. Let's temporarily secure a few stitches first. Check if the left and right sides of the face are symmetrical, then continue felting. You can use our needle to measure if it's symmetrical. If you feel this side isn't thick enough, you can add a bit more wool. Like this. The surface is still relatively rough and not smooth enough. We need to lay another layer of wool to make the surface smoother. Let's first learn how to tear apart the wool. Divide the wool into smaller strips, then pull it apart from the middle. Then change direction and pull it apart from the middle. Change direction and pull apart from the middle. Repeat this action. Then tear this long fiber. Be sure to keep changing direction. Until all of these long fibers are torn apart. It should look like this when finished. Take some torn wool. Spread the wool evenly. Make sure the thickness is even everywhere. From the side, it looks like a thin layer. Lay it on the cat's face and use fine needle to lightly poke it to secure. You can first secure a few stitches in the middle part, and then handle the edges later. Be careful to poke lightly while felting. Avoid deeply poking as it will deform the base. For the edges, poke in the direction of the wool fibers for a more natural connection. Our video is edited, and the actual completion time will be longer, so it requires a bit of patience. If you feel that the face or mouth is not full enough, you can add more at this time. The chin area isn't very full yet. Let's add a bit more wool to it. This area on the forehead can also have a little more wool added to make it fuller. You must gently insert the needle at a slight angle, the hole will be a bit smaller. If the hole is still too big, you can add another layer of torn wool. Every time you lay down the wool, be sure to add in small amounts multiple times. As the wool continues to tighten, our surface will become more refined. Let's take a look at how it turned out. Next, let's make the kitten's body. The body of the kitten is a cylindrical shape. Just like the head, compare with the blueprint and take out the amount of wool for the body. Wrap the wool tightly into a cylindrical shape. Take out the medium needle and stab deeply to secure the wool. Continuously turn the wool and try to felt it tightly and evenly. Slowly felt it into this shape. Our video is edited, the actual production time will be longer, so it requires a bit of patience. When the medium needle faces a certain hardness when poking in, switch to the fine needle to continue refining. Next, we will connect the head and the body together. Use your hands to hold the head and body. Use fine needle to deeply felt a circle around the head. The position of the chin can be like this, connecting the body to the head. Next is the position of the kitten's shoulders and hips. This is the kitten's shoulder, the thigh of the kitten, butt. Looking at the kitten's shoulder from the side, thigh. Take some torn wool. Fold into blocks. Place one on each side on the body. Secure with fine needle by deep felting. Fold another piece and place it at the back of the body, one on each side. If you feel it's not full enough, you can add wool in small amounts multiple times until you're satisfied. Place another piece of wool on the kitten's butt and use fine needle to felt it tightly. Our video is edited, so the actual felting time will be a bit longer. Let's keep going. Let's take a look at how it turned out. Let's take a look at the kitten's limbs. The kitten's paws are slightly bent. Then the legs are relatively short. Like this, the arms are a bit longer. Let's take a look at what they look like when they are not connected yet. These are the kitten's arms. The shorter ones are the kitten's legs. Take some torn wool. Wrap the torn wool into a cylindrical shape, folding one end inward. Secure with fine needle by deep felting. When making small things, your hands and the needle are very close, so remember to poke slowly. Continuously flip, felt, until it becomes firm. If it's not thick enough, you can continue to wrap wool and felt. Use the same method to make the kitten's arms. Fold the front a bit, then use fine needle to poke a few stitches to secure this bent angle. If you see this kind of poked out fluff, you can use fine needle to lightly poke it back in. Then use scissors to trim some of the fluff on top. Next, let's connect the limbs. Secure with fine needle by deep felting. You can felt towards the end with the fibers. This way the connection looks more natural. This is what it looks like when you're done. For the kitten's eyes, we use fine needle to deeply poke to eye sockets, making sure they are symmetrical. Take out the kitten's plastic eyes. Use glue to securely attach the eyes. You should prepare the glue by yourself. The surface fur of the kitten is made from different colors of wool. How to make the fur? Take some wool and tear it apart along the direction of the wool. We start from the kitten's thigh. Use fine needle to poke deeply into the center of the wool to secure it. Flip the wool over and secure it with fine needle. The other side is the same. Plant the front fur like this. Take out the white, light yellow, and camel-colored wool, and mix them together. The appearance after mixing evenly. Use the same method to secure the wool and create the back fur of the kitten. Layer it up one by one. The process of felting requires a bit of patience. Cover the neck and back of the head with white wool. For the facial patterns, use the wool that was mixed beforehand. After laying it out like this, next, we need to trim the cat. Trim it little by little. The appearance after trimming. At the places where the two colors transition, we lay down a bit of thin wool. After laying it down, trim it a bit. Let's take a look at the color of the cat's facial fur. Besides the light brown fur, there are also some coffee-colored fur. Take coffee and camel-colored wool, mix and tear it apart. Take a small thin layer and place it around the eye area to create dark patterns on the kitten's face. Use fine needle to lightly poke and secure it. Don't poke too deep, or it will damage the previous felting. Let's make the facial features first. We make the eyeliners. Take a long stripe of coffee wool and roll it into a line in your hand. Place it at the kitten's eyes and use a fine needle to poke deeply, securing a circle around the eye. The kitten's nose is a triangle. The mouth comes down from the middle. Then a diagonal line on each side. Take a bit of pink wool, roll it into a small ball, and make the kitten's nose. Secure with fine needle by deep felting. Use fine needle to deeply felt the shape of the mouth. Take a long strip of pink wool and roll it into a line. Felt along the deep marks to create the kitten's mouth. Next, let's take a look at the kitten's ears. The kitten's ears are triangles. Then there is a certain thickness. Take some torn coffee wool. Fold into a triangle. Secure with fine needle by deep felting. When felting, you need to constantly flip the wool, making sure to felt both sides to quickly compact and tighten it. Take a bit of torn white wool, place it inside the ear, and use a fine needle to lightly felt it in place. Place the ear on the top of the head and use a fine needle to deeply felt it in place. The back also needs to be felted and secured. Take fine strips of camel-colored wool, use fine needle to deeply felt, and create the kitten's paws. The tail part of the kitten. It has been felted. And inside, it is actually a cylindrical shape. Tear the white wool into pieces and roll it into a finer cylindrical shape. Use fine needle to poke deeply and secure it. Be careful not to poke your hand. Continuously turn it over. Try to poke every area until it is felted tightly. Take camel-colored wool, and use the same method as for the body to felt the cat's tail fur. Take some mixed color wool and felt it onto the back half of the tail. Use scissors to trim the shape a bit. Secure with fine needle by deep felting. take some blended colored wool, add it to the tail connection, and use fine needle to lightly felt it in place. Let's take a look at the finished product. Use a fine needle to poke deep holes, insert the fishing lines, and cut them short. You can use glue to secure them a bit more firmly. The adorable felted cat is all done.